There's Clayton Embley and Blake Middleton and Rick Bannerow and Ted Ryman already in the house.
All early birds, too.
Early birds as usual, in fact, right on time.
Right.
So we count down the last few seconds to this, our show number 755, Julia.
Oh, my God.
How time flies. Good afternoon to you, Mary Jude Szymanski and Tier DeYoung down in SoCal. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. This will be a fun show. I guarantee it. As Clark Chapin checks in from Plymouth, Michigan. He's already liked and shared. Thank you, Clark. The Ministry of Sailing is checked in from Annapolis, a.k.a. Captain Jack John Schaefer. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Alistair Murray, Mr. President of the Australian Sailing Federation, or was just called Australian Sailing these days. He's off for an early morning ride. He's going to catch us in the replay. Don Lunabos up in Sonoma on the other side of the bridge is with us, as we are once again live from Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club with our normal intro video, courtesy of the 12 Meter Association, Gary Jobson and co. Alan Long watching in Ohio rather than another sailing venue. Greetings, everybody.
Yes.
And greetings to you, Alan, and Ed Worley, one of our regular Zoomers.
Yes, indeed.
Who's been on these watch parties. And we appreciate Gordon and Ed and Graham Sweeney, who've been doing our watch parties with us. You gotta love the 12s.
I do.
Some people think we're living in the past, but gotta love them, right, Julia?
Absolutely. There's such a difference.
And we are Johnny Carsonwood, and we're out with the band, although we don't have our live in-studio band. Hi, I'm your host, Tom Eamon. We are in Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, along with my co-host and the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, senior member of St. Francis Yacht Club, Julia!
Whee!
I trust you're well.
I am.
Julia's mad at me because I haven't figured out how to get her down here for these 500 watch parties. She desperately wants to be with us, and
I can't give you bad time if I'm
well,
not
that's
here.
true, and I need all the bad time I can get. That is true. Whee! Rick Bannerow is mocking you now with a little bit. Hi, everybody. I just want to start by thanking Claire Harrington, our esteemed Vice Commodore of the New York Yacht Club, who was with us on Friday's show. She was, by all accounts, and I had a lot of comments, Julie. Did you enjoy that?
Absolutely.
She was terrific, eh?
She was.
And thanks, Claire. Thank you very much for coming on and updating us on the Resolute Cup, which ended on the weekend in Newport, Rhode Island at New York Yacht Club's a fabulous harbor court facility there. Bravo Zulu to the winners of various events since our Friday show. Just a quick coverage starting with the Resolute Cup. As we said in one of the watch parties over the weekend, Corinthian Yacht Club, Bravo Zulu to them. This is the Corinthian Yacht Club of Boston, actually up Marblehead. They have successfully defended their Resolute Cup title. The command performance by CYC of Marblehead saw the well-honed team skippered by Wade Waddell take its second consecutive victory in the prestigious Resolute Cup, thus securing the venerable club, the Corinthian Yacht Club, a berth in the 2025, next year's Rolex New York Yacht Club, the Invitational Cup, the big enchilada, when all the clubs come in from around the world. The Resolute Cup is a bit of an American qualifier for that event, and it only qualifies one club. So all these there were something, 20 some odd clubs involved?
Yeah, 28 or something.
Not exactly, and none of the others have qualified except the Corinthian Yacht Club of Marblehead. They had a fabulous prize giving. We made some jokes about the Commodores because Claire came back from Barcelona to host a reception for all the Commodores that were there for cheering on their teams at the Resolute Cup. And we were trying to decide the other morning, you remember, Julia, if it was going to be a conclave of Commodores, a conclave, a Commodores collective, and there were some other less.
There were lots of them.
There were lots.
And some funny.
And some crude. Some were, if you'd been down here, you could have given a finger wag or two for some of the names that some of our foes on the chat came up with.
But we didn't come to a conclusion, though.
Well, I think Claire's using Commodore's collective, and that's close enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's Commodore Tom Pace of the Pensacola Yacht Club there next to Claire at the prize giving in Newport and the big tent there at Harbor Court. It was a good time had by all, as was the Star Worlds, which we also saluted over the weekend. John Kostecki, JK.
Yes.
American and a longtime member of this club, grew up in the Bay Area. I raced against him in Sunfish when he was like 14.
I met him when he was about that age.
Great guy, great guy. And he and Austin Sperry, also here in the U.S., Austin is an Olympian. They won in JK's first ever Star Worlds. I think Austin may have won it in the past. And look at this, just the top 5, let alone the whole rest of the group. Yeah. There was 60 some odd boats. And JK and Austin and Will Stout and Danny Kayard, third generation star sailor, son, of course, of Paul Kayard and his grandfather here, longtime Bay Area sailor. What's Mr. Kayard's first name? Do you remember? Paul's dad.
Oh, I do.
Some David James will know it. There's David. I do not necessarily approve of ladies wearing trousers. If they're going to wear trousers, that is a good color. She talking about Claire Harrington's. A complete covey of Commodores. Clayton Embley came up with a good one.
That was a good one.
That was a good one. Claire is the cat's meow. Stingray quite enjoyed Claire. I got a text from him afterwards.
Yeah. No, she's good.
Back to the Star Worlds for a moment. Again, you got Danny Kayard, Paul's son, and you got Paul, and then Paul's dad, whose name we're not coming up with, was also a starboat sailor, and George Sabo and Guy Avalon down at San Diego Yacht Club, and the brothers from Argentina who were third. It was a great event, terrific event. That venerable class continues to be one of the best one design classes in the world. David James, this is a good comment from David to remind us that the Triple Crown, the Star Worlds around the world, and the Olympic medal, I believe he is only the second after Buddy Melgus. Well, Melgus has not won around the world, David. You talk about an Olympic medal, and JK had a silver in Busan in Korea. Mm-hmm. Hi, Mark Holland. But JK is the only person to win an Olympic medal, the round the world race, and the America's Cup. That's really the Triple Crown that we've talked about on this show. And now that he's also won the Star Worlds, bravo Zulu to him.
That's good.
That is fabulous.
Yep.
Buddy didn't, Ministry of Sailing, a.k.a. Captain Jack is saying. Bravo Zulu also to everybody involved here in San Francisco at the St. Francis Yacht Club, competing in or helping to run or promote the Rolex Big Boat Series, which wrapped on Sunday, hosted annually by the St. Francis Yacht Club. And this was, Julia?
Yes.
The 60th.
It was.
Edition, as you reminded me over the weekend, and a fabulous achievement by the club. Rolex have re-signed, as Claire told us, with New York Yacht Club, and I think Rolex has continued to help St. Francis with the Big Boat Series and beyond.
Yes.
If not the best sponsor in our sport, Julia, I don't know who is.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to feature another Rolex event in a moment, the Maxi Yacht Cup, the Maxi Yacht Rolex Cup. But before we leave,
I just have to ask, it was also my 60th Big Boat Series.
Well, you've done them all since 64.
64. Mm-hmm.
Who started the Big Boat Series?
5 guys.
Okay. 5 guys. That sounds like a burger chain.
I know.
But how about this boat?
Yes. Merlin.
Merlin. You love Merlin. We all love Merlin. It's good to see Merlin back in good fettle and good form, having been bought by Chip Merlin, the lawyer from Tampa. Yeah. I think he's a member of the Davis Island Yacht Club, and of course it was designed by Bill Fast is Fun Lee.
Yes.
A great great buddy, and this, of course, Merlin and Bill's called the Wizard by any number of people. Bravo Zulu also to this, the yacht Mayan, the classic yacht Mayan, which we keep singing the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young tunes because this was David Crosby's yacht back in the day before he reluctantly sold it to our immediate past Commodore at St. Francis, Beau Frolick, and he sold it on the condition that he would let David Crosby come sail on it any time he wanted to, and I think David did come sail one or two times after that.
I hope so.
But they won, I think, with straight bullets or nearly so, but a very well-sailed boat with a terrific crew, bunch of good yachties on that boat, and they won the Classics division over the last, well, it was Thursday through Sunday. Mm-hmm. And here, speaking of Bill Lee, that is Bill Lee in the foreground here, crewing on Mayan, pointing at his former yacht, the Santa Cruz 70. And there is Commodore Frolick, Beau Frolick, at the wheel of Mayan. This photo courtesy of our Fozy Lance Burke. Oh, I spelled his first name. I got his first name spelled the same as his last name. It's actually Lance. Graphics department.
Yes, quick.
Quick, fix that. A nice photo by Lance Burke, a.k.a. Fog Machine.
Mm-hmm. That's a classic photo.
That's a great shot. And Julia, you like to say that San Francisco Bay is
always reliably beautiful, reliably windy, and incredibly beautiful.
No, come on. It's on the lower third on your program monitor there. Reliably windy
and iconically
There
beautiful.
We go. Make the big boat series big again, Sangmeister's saying. Yeah, it's now more of a J-Fest. It's a lot of J boats, one design, but you still get some big boats, still get some classic yachts. Apropos that great photo by Lance Burke. Oh my ego is bruised because I spelled his name wrong. Sorry, Fog Machine. Now here is I got his name spelled wrong in this next one too because I just did a cut and paste of that credit up in the left corner. Here's a really cool video taken by Lance from on board during the racing, and you talk about the classic yacht starboard tacking a one design. I think it's the J105 fleet. Watch this. They're both rounding the same mark. I think that's what we call the blackwaller buoy here in the bay. And they got a horn up there, speaking of Fog Machine. And these boats dutifully tack and stay clear, the port tackers that were approaching the mark. And of course, Mayan is approaching from a different direction, shouting starboard. Action on board the classic yacht Mayan. Ed Worley saying the tonnage rule would apply to it. Yeah, you damn well better tack, you J105s. Now watch how good this crew is getting the kite up. Hold on the hoist. Lance, did you take this video? I thought you took this video, Lance.
Everybody hold!
Stingray, you should come down here next year. I'll bet you could get a ride on Mayan if you behaved yourself.
Gotcha. The commotion there. Go for it. Captain, come out a bit. That's great.
This is what people like to see.
Yeah.
Sails going up and down. No cyclors, as Ed Worley says.
Yeah.
Crew doing crew work. Traditional yachting crew work.
Yeah, it really is exciting.
How nice is that, Julia?
Oh, it's great.
Huh?
That's a great video, too.
It's the Whomper, Alex Hayworth is saying. It's the Whomper. They use that kite a lot. And this crew, I mean, look at how many, I didn't count them all up, but there's our Commodore Chris Perkins, who's a hell of a good sailor in his own right, on the far right at the prize giving. And we've got at least two Fozy in there, probably more, but there is Staff Commodore Beau Frolick in the left circle there, and Lance Burke. I spelled there. Lance, I spelled your name right in that lower third. Mark Holland is saying we love it. David James would fire whoever packed that kite because it came up twisted. Well, this was good fun, and Bravo Zulu to them. Another very successful big boat series, the RBBS or Rolex Big Boat Series. And just one more slide. Our friends from down in San Diego, Drew Freitas and his team won ORC B with straight bullets. They did take a scoring penalty in one race when there was a port starboard, similar port starboard. I actually happened to be over there and did a bit of a consult with their team in the starting line room, Julia, on Saturday night. They sought me out and said, don't you know the rules? And I said, well, I used to. Not sure I still do. And they wisely took a 30% scoring penalty for an incident that they may or may not have been at risk in getting disqualified. But they had a fabulous regatta regardless.
Yes.
And here they are in another one of these. Danielle Forster, who took all these photos. Danielle comes out here from Newport, Rhode Island, and shoots for Rolex. And this was posted not by Drew Freitas and co., but by the Offshore Racing Congress. Quote, we were doing over 20 knots going into the finish on Saturday. It was crazy. It's an amazing boat for the bay, Drew said. That the name of the yacht is Pacific Yankee. Drew Freitas, racing his Cape 31, won the ORC B division with 6 bullets over 7 races at the 60th Rolex Big Boat Series here in San Francisco. Chris Sheehan's Warrior 1, another Cape 31, was second, and Peter Wagner on his JL 111 Skeleton Key took third. This was Freitas' first time sailing in the RBBS in his own yacht, his own boat, although he has raced the series plenty of times in the past, and he was treated, as was everybody, to classic, Julia.
Yes.
Your favorite conditions.
Iconically
beautiful
and reliably windy.
Exactly right. So Bravo Zulu to them. Then we change hemispheres almost, but we not quite. We go to Europe, change continents anyway, and to the Yacht Club Costa Smeralda, the Maxi Yacht Rolex Cup, which took place last week and wrapped up. I don't remember who was Saturday or Sunday, but this a fabulous bow-on shot of Leopard. And there they are at the prize giving, getting the watch. And this was another terrific event that, of course, is overseen by Julia, by our Fozy, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin. Exactly. Who will be here next week for the Stag Cruise. He is giving the keynote address here at the St. Francis Yacht Club Stag Cruise next week.
Will we drag him on?
Well, we'll see him Wednesday night. You're coming over for the Wednesday night reception and dinner afterwards, aren't you? At the YC? We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And by the way, James is staying with us on Wednesday night.
Oh, good.
James Sailstrom called me the other day, and he is going to bunk in with us here on Wednesday night and we're dedicating Friday night to
Jim,
to his late great father, Jim Sailstrom, who played with Dolly Parton for years. He was a member of St. Francis, an associate member, and his dad died after late last year.
Yeah.
And James, the son, is coming out, and we're dedicating Friday night to the memory
That's really nice.
of Jim Sailstrom, who also played with John Denver all those years.
Yes.
And when they finally dedicated the Rocky Mountain High, made that the state song. For a while, they didn't like the idea that maybe it was about drugs or something, which of course it was not. Who knows? But when the state finally made that the state song, Jim Sailstrom was the one who came in, James's dad, and played it at the big deal in Denver when they made it in honor of John Denver and in honor of Colorado. Rocky Mountain High, John Denver, exactly.
Well, they played together. They were.
Well, Jim Sailstrom, I played with him a lot, as you know, informally, never professionally, but that guy was the best player I ever played with.
And lyric, remember.
Well, he knew the words to anybody could name a song. I can play about any song, as Claire Harrington and I've discussed, but I don't know the lyrics.
Yeah, I know.
I'm an old bass player. But that guy was astonishing.
Really?
Notwithstanding, I did play one night in Melbourne at the top of the Crown Casino after a certain Formula One team won a certain Formula One March race.
Right.
And a very shaggy, long-haired, smelly guy came in. And he said, oh, he sat down at the piano over in the corner of the ballroom and
Yes.
started playing.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting with the drivers and the muckety mucks, and they said, well, Tom, you know who that is, and you should go up there and play with him. I said, what do you mean? No, I'm not going to do. Who is it? And the guy was just awful, and he was one of the Beatles. He was a big F1 fan. Let's see if any of the Fozy knows, and he's since passed away. He's one of the two Beatles who's gone. And of course, it was not John Lennon, so you all now know who it was. But
Yeah.
he was a big F1 fan. But he was so wrecked and so messed up.
But enough that you played for hours.
We played for hours. But his son was there carrying. Yeah, it was George Harrison. John Sangmeister got it. He wins the award. And Yanni Harrison, I think is his name. I think that's how they pronounce it. His son was there as well, and he was really carrying the load. And he's a good musician as well. But Jim Sailstrom, the late great.
Yes.
Okay, that took a few minutes. The IMA Maxi Worlds, Leopard 3, Just Shuif, I think it's pronounced. Donnie Harrison, thank you. Not Johnny, Donnie Harrison. Thank you, Steve Gruber. Well done, Danni. But Bravo Zulu to Leopard 3. This is a team that had a lot of success in the Maxi World.
Performance
and here's a video.
Achievement and reward at the grand finale of the 2024 Maxi Yacht Rolex Cup. After a week of extreme and challenging weather conditions, this acclaimed regatta concluded in style today, with a display of spectacular coastal racing. 40 yachts competed in the final day's racing that would decide all 6 class winners. First to start was the fleet contesting the Rolex IMA Maxi 1 World Championship. With only 3 points separating the top 3 boats, the racing was intense. Deep Blue started the day as class leaders, but an early equipment failure opened the door to Juice Schultz's Leopard 3. Leading from the front, the crew of the 100-foot Maxi sailed an immaculate race to claim the crown as Rolex IMA Maxi 1 World Champions. There were winning performances too in the other classes, with Svea reigning supreme in the Super Maxi class, H2O in Maxi 4, and Oscar 3 in the Maxi Class 3. Accolades also went to Gaetana and Proteus in the multi-hull and Maxi 2 classes. Back on the dock, the biggest celebrations were reserved for the new world champions, Leopard 3.
We're fighting for every second, so we're capable of doing that with the team. Just keep it right on the wind and keep it right at speed, never drop anything. That's why we end up so well. This is a dream come true.
And finally, the official prize giving, rewarding the winning performances of the 2024 Maxi Yacht Rolex Cup.
How's that, Julia?
Great.
You know, that was the final video.
Yeah.
And we ran one. I don't remember who was last Friday or last Tuesday.
Probably Tuesday.
I don't think we did a show Tuesday because I was flying to Phoenix, so it
Yeah.
may have been even the previous Friday. But in any event, in a previous show, and they had another one from 3 days ago, or like late last week,
Yeah.
and I almost ran that because you see the reaction from Stingray and Blake Middleton and David James and others. It just is a fabulous yacht club, fabulous event, and how Mr. Dr. Arfosi, Andrew McIrvin, how he manages to marshal the troops, herd the cats,
Yeah, right.
those owners
Yes.
who are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on their hobby. Let's face it.
Right.
I mean, these are expensive. I can't tell you the exact cost. If you ask John Schaefer to give you on here, or a guy that owns a Maxi, John Sangmeister, is on here, they could tell you, I'm sure,
Yeah.
an approximate cost of not only building, but then maintaining and then campaigning a big yacht, a
With
Maxi
an
like that.
onboard crew of 10.
Well, more than that, 20. I mean, they got
Full time?
Well, I don't know about, no, not full time. They fly in and out, but
Yeah.
just, airfares and
Oh,
hell, the
gosh,
sandwich
yes.
budget for something like that.
No.
I struggle with the sandwich budget of for our J24.
Right.
You know.
No, they're just spectacular. They're just regal.
And who was it that said, If you have to ask, you can't afford it.
That's exactly
Wasn't
right.
that what was that one of the Vanderbilts, or was that somebody back in that era?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks to Rolex again for all you do for our beloved sport.
Absolutely.
We are celebrating today, Julia.
What?
What are we celebrating
I
today?
don't
There's a clue underneath that lower third.
The Bee Gees?
We are not celebrating the Bee Gees. God forbid we do.
I can celebrate the Bee Gees.
As Joe Holtzman's checking in from a very, very, very windy Estes Park. With J.P. Morgan, Clark Chapin thinks. Vanderbilt, Morgan, they're all cut out of the same cloth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are we celebrating if not the Bee Gees? What was one of their most favorite, famous, I should say, songs, Julia?
I don't.
Disco era. John Emmett's got it. John Emmett, Staying Alive. That is it. Ding, ding, ding. John Emmett's got it. We're celebrating that in the semifinals yesterday, the Americans and the Swiss managed to stay alive. They each won a race, and we're celebrating. we need some disco music. I don't want to get a copyright strike, Alan Long, because we'd get a copyright strike if I played that.
Right.
I did listen to it. I tried to find somebody who had, what's the word when somebody covers it and it's not the original covers, I guess. But we're celebrating the fact that these other two teams have stayed alive yesterday by each of them winning. First of all, it was the Swiss, Alinghi Red Bull Racing, managing to beat the Brits when the Brits crashed down. Here is a great photo of that, and the Brits stayed stuck to the water, and the Swiss sailed by and into a huge lead. Graham Sweeney said he met one of the Bee Gees in Miami. Did you play with him? Did you sing with him, Graham? In any event, that was yesterday, and Ineos still leads and has probably an insurmountable 4-1 lead in the first to win 5 race semis.
Oh, you've heard that before.
But we heard it here in 2013, didn't we, Julia?
Yep.
We did hear that, and we shall see what happens tomorrow, although tomorrow could be another one of these dodgy days because it's looking like it's rainy, really bumpy, more than a meter sea state, and it could be breezy. Could be a bit breeze on tomorrow, so that might make it interesting again. There is the other match from yesterday in the semifinals. This the Americans against the Italians. And the Italians, if those of you who are on doing the watch party with us, we described it and watched it replay after replay, but they were coming into the bottom gate at virtually the same time. The Italians just a touch behind the Americans. The Italians were on the inside, the Americans on the outside, and the Americans had to literally give them room. They were overlapped, the Italians were, as they were rounding the downwind right end of the gate. And the Americans slid down to leeward a little bit to give them some room. But this is the Italians now coming in and doing a 180, what I call a hairpin turn, not unlike what we saw JK do here in 2013 repeatedly. I've never told you this story. You know, these hairpin turns, which were so deadly in 2013 to Oracle Team USA, or what were we? Was that what we were called then? BMW Oracle Racing.
Yeah.
I went to the cleaners. I took some shirts over to the cleaners in the middle of that series when we were down 8-3 or 8-4. I don't know what it was. And the cleaning lady, little Kimmy, who's a wonderful gal, very smart, Chinese American, and she said, "Tom, Mr. Tom, why is your team doing these hairpin turns? Everybody knows that you don't do that in these conditions at the Alcatraz gate." I mean, she had the whole thing down. They were actually. So this is what happened: is that Jimmy Spitt, now the shoe's on the other foot because Spithill was driving our boat here in 2013. Now he's driving the Italian boat. Came in, did that U-turn. Well, you were watching it.
Yeah.
U-turned inside, fell off the foils, and the Americans sped away. It was race over.
Yeah.
Great bar karate. Thanks, Chris Elliott. Yeah, bar karate, we say. You know what that is? There's a podcast, famously good podcast from Australia. Jody Shields knows the guys and is often on it, in fact. And you go into a bar with a bunch of sailors and they start doing this, right? We did this and we did that, and then we came back together, we ducked, and they call that bar karate.
I didn't know that. Okay.
David James, who's a big fan of JK, says he really wishes we could stop discussing the JK hairpin turns in 2013. it was the correct. Well, David James, I beg to differ. I don't think it was the correct terms, and it was not the correct decision yesterday because, again, LRPP fell off the foils and were stuck to the water in that marginal foiling condition. And the Americans went on to win by, I think, over 3 kilometers.
Really?
Yeah, it was a big lead.
I remember. Yeah.
So that's staying alive. New York, NIAM, as I call them, New York American. By the way, I think it's really good that New York Yacht Club's name is in the name of their team. It's the only club that continually gets recognition. A lot of times they're called Magic. Sometimes people call them New York, as I do. New York Yacht Club's American Magic is the formal name of that team. And NIAM, I call them New York American Magic. And ARBR each got a win yesterday, and they are staying alive. Here's the video from the team, that is from NIAM, after yesterday's win.
We've got a start, we've got a race. The 5th time these two teams meet UniCredit Pirelli and the New York Yacht Club's American Magic.
So it took us 5 races to get a win. The guys, much in the same manner that they have the entire series, they've been sailing really well. You got to give credit to Luna Rossa for getting a good start and sailing a good, it's a game of swings and roundabouts. And, they're sailing very well too. When you listen to the composure and the poise and the discussions and how the guys are racing Patriot, there's nothing but the highest respect for the level that they're sailing the boat. I think probably the sweetest part about today was Tommy got a good start, but it wasn't a start that we were going to win the race from. But it was a good start. But how the team battled, how we battled was really, it's what you want. It's what you want to see. As a teammate, that's what we aspire to be. The team that you can never put away. We got a big road ahead of us, though. We got to win 4 more, and the Italians have to win 1. We're going to continue to focus on the process of racing our boat well and all those subtle little things that are on display today. We're on display in that second race yesterday where we lost by 2 seconds.
Rolling up.
Magic has
Boundaries there, very, very close. Italians going for the Protus. They will fall off the foils here, the Italians.
Come on, boys, pull it off.
It is so close, and you can see the growth of our team. You can see the growth of our helmsman relationship. You can't say enough about how good of the team is doing together.
American Magic sailing Patriot, get the win. How important is that win going to be?
The work that Lucas has done to step into that role in such short notice. I'm so grateful for how we prepared over the last 18 months, but he still had to get on the boat and do it. It's a good day. It's nice to be here with living to fight another day. And I think as when we look back and reflect on that race, we're going to see things that we could have done better. But we're also going to see a lot of things that we did really well and how they kept the race close and how they're sailing the boat. I mean, that was exciting.
Speaking of Jody Shields, I see he's on here. Will the wrecking ball come out tomorrow, he says, or asks. And there's some really good comments. Julie always likes to remind us to do what?
Be sure to read the comments after the show.
Indeed, because there's a lot of good ones on here. And
good ones and bad ones.
John Emmett predicts, Julia, that they will win tomorrow. They'll close out the deal.
Who will?
The Italians.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We shall see. I'm still pulling for these guys, but as were you, Julia, I think if the Americans can't win this, I certainly hope the Italians do. I'd like to see the Brits, but I'm afraid the Brits will go along with the current program and not make. Some of you will appreciate the current program being continued.
Right.
Some of us would like to see it changed. And I think the Italians, if they win the Cup, we have a shot at the Italians maybe making some.
I do have a great empathy with the owner, who's on his 7th.
There he is. There is Patrizio Bertelli's Luna Rossa Prata Pirelli on his 7th challenge. And Sir Thomas Lipton only did
6.
5.
5. Oh.
He only did 5. I have a feeling, looking at what we saw in the America's Cup Park and the public viewing area, the big screen yesterday
Yeah.
on the television show. They kept cutting to it, and in previous days.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling this is the most popular team in Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no surprise. They're a Mediterranean country, racing in a Mediterranean country. And LRPP has a huge, well, as you can see the shot at their base. I mean, they've got a huge crowd. And, you know, this is typical. This is not just this time, but all the way back when they first were in Newport
Yes.
in 1983. We talked about this the other morning on one of the watch parties. Yacht Club Costa Smeralda, the aforementioned, the first ever Italian challenge, 1983 in Newport. Then they were the challenger of record in 87. They did a great job down in Perth and Fremantle. Yeah. One of the reasons why that was in many people's books,
the best.
The best cup ever. Certainly in terms of number of teams. We had 13 challengers and 4 defenders down there. I think this may be the most popular team in Barcelona, which, by the way, as I've been saying all along, that does not bode well for the Kiwis. Because as Golden Gate Yacht Club won the cup here, as you'll remember, well, we won it in Valencia 2010, brought it back here, successfully defended here in our hometown in 2013.
Right.
And then Russell and Larry, over the objections of some, including the Golden Gate Yacht Club's Vice Commodore.
Who happened to be.
I don't know who that crouton was, and others. And they took it to Bermuda and promptly lost it. And arguably, the Brits and the Kiwis were more popular, not even arguably, the Brits were very popular there, and the Kiwis, you know, Kiwis very popular. Even the Swedes were popular there, not so much the Americans. Mm-hmm. Were the Brits there in Bermuda? I don't remember now. In any event, I think this is a very popular team, arguably the most popular team in Barcelona. Arguably, that's why I put a question mark after that lower third. And I think that has a lot to do with success. Mm-hmm. I think being not quite home court advantage, but certainly as close to that, and having a cheering crowd for you and a lot of local support, I think is important.
Yeah.
I would suggest Lipton, the greatest sport. I canna win, I never did. Just by style alone, I can see why LRPP would be big in BCN. Good point, Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what we're celebrating today. Staying alive. We're also celebrating, as we always say at the end of this segment, we're celebrating all of you, our FOSI, those of you who come on regularly and watch this show, those of you who've been on the show, especially those of you who've been on regularly, and those of you who are patrons that give us a few bucks a month via Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated, to keep us in our studio.
Yes, alive.
Talking about staying alive. And we're right, we're barely staying alive. If it weren't for Julia giving us a good deal here on the Beach Street Yacht Club rent, and all of you who do chip in a few bucks a month, that helps pay the bills here. And by the way, our electric, you know how you get that thing? Our local electric company is called Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E, and the electric and the power rates have gone up in this country a lot. And particularly here in this state of California.
More than doubled.
And it's unbelievable. But then they're doing all these things to try to encourage people not, because they don't have enough power with all this electric cars and all this other stuff that's going on now. And we get that thing in the mail every week, or I get it in my email every week from PG&E, and it tells you how much energy you've used in the past week.
Right.
Maybe 1 week, separating, hence, or before. And doing the watch parties, our electric bill's gone up because we got the studio lights on for 3 hours in the morning, and on and on. So our electric bill is going north, Julia. Oh dear. I can see.
Oh.
At least I'm sandwiched under you, and your heat upstairs keeps us warm down here. Okay, enough. Thanks to everybody who support us here via Patreon. Become a patron. We will continue, our electric bill notwithstanding, we'll continue to do these watch parties starting again tomorrow morning. It looks like there will be racing, maybe, but it's scheduled in any event for tomorrow morning. We'll go live at 0500 Pacific. And those croutons, those of you who started criticizing me for not covering the youth live this morning, you come over here. I'll push the buttons, get you turned on, then I'll go back to bed, and you can run the show from here or from your own, do a watch party at 0500 for the youth every day, as well as this. That'd be great. I'd be happy if somebody was. But
That's
I
right.
got criticized, Julia, this morning. When you came down, I
Yeah.
was grumpy.
I know.
I got some, where aren't you uncovering the youth? Well, you know what? Stuff you.
It
Up yours.
takes
as
a
the
lot
Italians,
of energy.
as the Italians would say, up yours. I was, yeah, and you're kind of perpetually jet lagged because you're
Yeah.
getting up at dark 30 and
Yeah.
we're going live at 5. And then this morning I tried to sleep in a bit. As
Yes,
useless.
too late. Yeah.
Still waking up at 4 o'clock.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I'm sorry to bitch and moan and complain, but we're trying to help you out. We're trying to do a good job for you. We will cover the America's Cup. We'll do a watch party, and we will probably cover the women's. I think the women's is going to be quite a bit interesting. We have some Fosey sailing and a couple of Fosey sailing in the youth too. We'll tell you about in a moment.
Yeah.
And at least we'll cover the finals of the youth or maybe the latter stages of it. We'll see. But I can't do that every morning.
Yeah, it is.
I'm too old, Julia.
Yes. And I'm even older.
Well, not that you would know. 0500 tomorrow morning. We'll be back at it. And speaking of the schedule, just a program note here. We will do tomorrow's watch party. And there could be a watch party on Thursday. We'll see if it's raceable tomorrow. It's going to be rainy, windy, and bumpy. And we'll see if, one of those teams that are on the knife's edge, if they continue to win, then we may be doing some more racing Thursday or even Friday. Who knows? If there is a watch party Friday morning, we will not do our regular show Friday afternoon. It's too much. And then, of course, next Tuesday, we'll do our regular Tuesday and Friday show. Next Tuesday at 1300. Again, if there's a watch party Friday, we will not do our regular show Friday afternoon because it's just too much. There's not enough time in the day to prepare 2 shows and execute 2 shows and so on. Okay, enough about all of that. And speaking of, our feature is really about the youth, and a guy who has done more for youth sailing than just about anybody I know as a coach and more is John Emmett. And here is his segment. This is the Coaching Corner, what I'm starting now to call the Coaching Corner contribution, because he contributes his time and effort to make these videos.
Indeed.
The Coaching Corner with John Emmett, and here's his latest from this morning.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fosies. So I'm recording this shortly after the most recent action at the America's Cup, and I'm actually quite glad we get to see one more day of racing, although I do suspect we know how it's going to go. And the interesting thing is, we live in a world where we can all comment and we can all have our opinions. So the first thing, I think it's really easy sat on your sofa to criticise these sailors, and let's not forget they are literally some of the best sailors in the world, sailing the highest performance boats in the world. So those comments, it's really easy to criticise. And what I would say is the comments I see where people just, say something's rubbish or useless or slightly more rude, they're not useful, okay? And I always think about that in terms of if I was making a coaching comment. Don't say something's bad, say why it could be better, because as I say, these sailors are operating under a huge amount of pressure. So yeah, constructive criticism. But today in John Emmett's Coaching Corner, I wanted to talk a little bit about kindness, which is probably something you don't think about in terms of performance, but it's something that needs to be time scaled, because something which may look like kindness in the short term, so allowing athletes to miss training, eat what they want, stay out late or whatever, it may seem like a kindness. You've had a bad day, okay, no problem, you have your comfort eating or whatever. That kindness in the short term, I would actually say, is unkindness in the long term. A long-term kindness looks like going out and getting some exercise, whatever your state in life, whether that's walk, run, cycle, swim, play a ball sport. It's eating healthily. And I think to a certain extent, we all know what we mean by that. And, food shouldn't be given as a reward or a punishment. Get enough sleep. all these sort of things. As a parent, probably many of you struggle getting kids to go to bed on time, but actually that discipline is a kindness, because we know the next day, if we have a poor sleep, it's always difficult to recover. And you need to think, how much are you willing to pay the price for tomorrow, for when you burn the candle at both ends today? So yes, kindness, something to really think about. Comments? Always welcome. Sail fast, sail safe, have fun.
Julia, we've never burnt the candle at both ends, have we?
Oh,
That's a great point. And
Yes.
Captain Jack, Ministry of Sailing, is saying, well done, Coach Emmett. It only takes an instant to be critical, but a lifetime to be a creator. Joe Holzman, what a nice comment that is.
it is.
And I tell you what, Julia, the thing I like most about the FOSI and doing this show is that, without exception, of the regulars anyway, because they're pretty well self-policing, no one does any name calling, no
Right.
one does any coarse language, rarely. In fact, now somebody will put up the word shiza in English. They did the other day on one of those
Yeah, I know.
watch parties. And no personal attacks. And that is so nice and so much appreciated. And that's why it's fun for Julia and myself to do this. Ice cream is always a good reward, especially in Wisconsin. Thank you, John Emmett. Thank you, John. Now here is Tom Tangential from TFE, because the other morning we started talking somehow about Winnie the Pooh. And do you know what that map is, Julia?
That's John's.
That's E.H. Shepard's 1924 Winnie the Pooh. He illustrated those books, or some of them anyway, of what was the 100-acre, obviously misspelled on purpose, the 100-acre wood is what Winnie the Pooh called it. And Mr. Shepard drew that with some help. So there is the Winnie the Pooh segment. And the 100-acre wood, also spelled as 100 AKER, or whatever, also known simply as the Wood, is a part of the fictional land inhabited by Winnie the Pooh and his friends in the Winnie the Pooh series of children's stories by author A.A. Milne. The Wood is visited regularly by the young boy Christopher Robin, who accompanies Pooh and company on their many adventures. Now, how did this come up? Well, somehow, I don't know if it was Gordon Smith or if it was John, somebody started talking about playing Pooh Sticks.
Yeah.
I had not heard of Pooh Sticks myself. Had you?
No, hadn't.
Well, we're bloody Americans, Yanks, so what would you expect? Well, Ed Worley sent that graphic in. He had heard of Pooh Sticks. And, these guys are all been Zooming with us on these early morning shows. And they knew all about this. In fact, they've all been playing it, apparently, themselves. Maybe still do in some cases.
Yeah, I think so.
And this is the Pooh Sticks Bridge in Ashdown Forest, and apparently it exists. And it what was the what's the word I want? It was the inspiration to the writer. And out came John Emmett, who said, this bridge is only 8 or 9 miles from our family farm. Pooh Sticks is a game first mentioned in The House at Pooh Corner, a Winnie the Pooh book by the aforementioned A.A. Milne. It is a simple game which may be played on any bridge over running water. Each player drops a stick on the upstream side of a bridge, and the one whose stick first appears on the downstream side is the winner. And then there's even an annual World Pooh Sticks Championship that's been held at Days Loch on the River Thames in the UK since 1984. Well, Gordon Smith said, oh, yeah, we play this and still do with my kids, and we, if we can find one. And then Gordon Smith, or Graham Sweeney said, rather, oh, we don't have any trees here in Shetland and Scotland, so we can't play it anyway. We don't have any stick. We'd have to use something else. Well, Gordon Smith said it's more fun if you drop it in the river, in the creek or the river, or whatever it is,
right,
and then run to the next bridge.
Aha.
So that you have some time and you can cheer and place bets and whatever.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay, so that's that's the Pooh Sticks Bridge in Ashdown Forest, which, as John told us, is just that. There it is. Apparently, that's the forest, which is just a few miles from the Emmett family farm. Yeah, it sounds like a test tank. That's exactly right, Mark Holland. We were talking about that the other day, too. David James wondering if Hairsoft ever did any designs by Poo stick. Okay. We digress, but that is John Emmett's report. He's got a couple others in the can for us, and we'll catch up with his various Coaching Corner contributions on Friday. John Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet. And we appreciate those very much indeed. Julia, let's get to the feature of today's show. We're an hour, not even, or 50 minutes into the show. And as you've seen from the cover slide, and that get repeated as segment dividers, the UniCredit Youth America's Cup. And Julia, you'd researched that before the show. What is UniCredit again?
It's an international investment company.
Banking company?
Yeah.
Based in where? In Italy, I think you said. You said Italy when you read.
Yeah, I guess so.
You
Yes.
Google it while I
Yeah,
was
right.
rushing around here to finish the show. Now, okay, now they're all coming. Here come all the comments about poo sticks. I can think of some poo sticks that had nothing to do with being dropped in the water, Julia. Huh?
I'm going to share my favorite poo picture when I find it again.
Poo stick?
No,
Or poo?
poo.
Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh picture,
Okay, we'll look forward to that. Do send that down.
which has a stick.
Oh, I got ahead of myself. It has a stick? Okay. Hey, I got up here next is the video that they launched a couple days, 3 days ago, I guess, introducing the UniCredit Youth America's Cup. This from ACE, America's Cup Events.
The UniCredit Youth America's Cup. Here we go.
Let's do this.
One, you're clear.
What an opportunity for the 12 young world-class teams.
It might be all smiles now, but they'll have their game face on come race one. This is sick.
They pulled that off. I mean, a great confidence and fantastic execution. Make a name for yourself on the America's Cup stage, and the world is your oyster.
Bring it on!
The best young sailing talent and the next generation of AC-75 sailors strut their stuff.
Vamos!
This fleet is a who's who in youth sailing.
Look how close this finish is.
Getting a little high. Turn on the jets.
Everybody okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
The America's Cup youth teams combined with the invited teams, it is going to be fascinating to see how that plays out.
One match race final would decide the UniCredit Youth America's Cup in true America's Cup style.
Okay, I think Shirley and co got a little carried away. They're calling these the greatest and best, and some of them are the best. I mean, certainly the Italian team, as some of you are pointing out, and the American team looked good today, but half the teams didn't finish one of those races today. Maybe more. The French didn't finish one of the races. So, and then the second race, which got really breezy and bumpy today. Yeah, really breezy and bumpy, and I think half the teams didn't finish.
Yeah.
So, but here's the point: is that from here, to give Russell Coots credit, us credit here, but this was really Russell's big thing. He wanted to have this Youth America's Cup in the worst way. And some, not me, but some others were saying, Russell, let's focus on the big deal and try to win that and try to have a good event for the senior teams. He said, no, we got to do the youth thing, and we'll use remember the catamarans, the training catamarans we had from that era.
You're right.
So those got used, repurposed and used by the youth, and that was a hell of a good event. And it was the first one right here in San Francisco, and if you remember who won that, it was the Kiwis, and it's basically the 4 Kiwis who are on the back end, the sailors who are on Emirates Team New Zealand today, and who've already won the Cup once. So it has provided a pathway for some into the next stage. So no cyclers and all sailors. The AC-40s are still exciting, Andrew McIrvin is saying. Yeah, so I give Russell full marks for pushing this forward, and to Grant Dalton for keeping it going, because I think it is an important thing. I think the women's event will be better. I think they are all a little more seasoned. We shall see. Maybe I'm biased towards Olivia Price, one of our Fozy.
Yes.
But we got a couple Fozy in this crowd too, who we're going to cheer for, including Harry Melgus, who's not Harry Melgus, the fourth, H4, who is not really a Fozy. I haven't had him on the show. I know him. I've met him a couple times, but I really don't know him. Featured him. Maybe we did have him on the show. I can't remember.
I think we did once.
Maybe Clark Chapin will check it out. But there's several of his crew and of the Greater American Magic crew who are from Scout Country, as Jay Rendell will remind us. And that's a nice thing to see, too. It's not just the coasties. It's not just the East Coast and the West Coast and the Gulf Coast sailing crowd. But here is the press conference from yesterday morning. They have a pre-regatta press conference, and I don't know who the moderator is, but he asked the kids right at the start of this thing, is this your first press conference? And they all put their hands up, which I was astonished by because, first of all, two of them, who are Gov Cup alums, for sure have been in all sorts of press conferences like this and the other match racing tour press conferences. So I don't know why. Maybe they were told to put their hands up, but it's a bit croutonic. But the press conferences were actually good, and I'm going to run two clips, about a 5-minute clip from the early part, and then we'll get to H4, to Harry Melgus IV, in the second clip, just a brief kind of minute and 15-second clip. But here is the first clip.
A quick question to start. I mean, whose first press conference is this? Love it. Okay, we're gonna start with the British team here, because Athena Pathway, Britain team, you guys are the reigning youth champions. So Nick Robbins, skipper on the team, I want to talk to you about that. The Brits, you won this competition last time out. It went down to the wire, that last race, the last leg. I mean, there was nothing in it. Can the team repeat that? How confident are you?
Yeah, I mean, it was great to watch the Youth America's Cup last time around. Obviously, wasn't involved, and it was great to watch it come to Britain. But it was actually quite a long time ago, and the boats are very different now, and everything is kind of a complete reset. So, you know, we've had a really strong summer training down in Badalona, and able to have some time learning this type of boat and this type of racing. But I think that there's a lot of other teams who've managed to do the same thing, and the people that we have here are very strong. So it's definitely going to be a good fight.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, well, we'll go to the local team now, Sail Team Barcelona, skipper Martin Wisner. Martin, I mean, it's the chance for you guys to fly the flag for Spain. We don't have a team in the America's Cup, but there feels like there's a huge amount of support around the team base down in the main race village for your team. How proud are you and excited to be representing Spain?
Yeah, it's an honor to be here in Spain and competing in these cool boats and challenging the other guys. So yeah, the main goal is to try and be a AC team, big team in the next cup. So this is the pathway. I'm looking forward for this week.
So you think the confidence is building that this is the stepping stone to get a Spanish boat back in the America's Cup?
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward for it.
Nice, Martin. Okay, we'll go to Leonard Takahashi now, helm on board Emirates Team New Zealand. I mean, Leo, for everyone, you're trying to find an edge. You know, you're doing everything you can, make the boat go fast, training a lot out there. But your approach, I mean, you guys have been embedded right in the thick of Emirates Team New Zealand. Can you just kind of, I guess, talk to that? What's it been like being right in the mixer of the bigger beast of Emirates Team New Zealand?
Yeah, it's been a real honour, really. Team New Zealand's a household name back home, so it's been really cool for the team and I to actually be involved with the operations and how everything works. And, you know, these boats are awesome. And I think everyone here can agree that we've had a really good time on the yacht, and even the simulator has been a really good stepping stone. So, you know, full credit to the ACE team and actually Team New Zealand for bringing these boats to us and actually making it a stepping stone for us to be able to, you know, showcase our talents next week.
And what's it like going around the team base? You know, Peter Berlin, Blair Tuke, Andy Maloney, and I guess even Jason Saunders on the Orient Express racing team. They lived this pathway, you know, winning in 2013. What's that like, having the guys around the base and knowing that this is a legitimate stepping stone?
Yeah, it's awesome. Those guys are, you know, really nice to us. They've really taken us in, and the rest of the team as well. They're always, you know, around to have a chat. And yeah, I guess there's some big shoes to fill. You know, it's a lot of history behind the team. So, you know, for us, I think we just got to kind of blank that out for now and, you know, just perform out there this week.
Nice. Okay, going to go to across the ditch to Australia now, and do Team Australia with helm Cole Tapper. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Cole, practice racing, as we said, has been looking really good, and word on the street that Andu Team Australia has been one of the strongest performing teams. But you've done probably the least amount of time on these AC40 boats, but a lot of time in the simulator. Can you go and just talk to us about the simulator training, how valuable that's been, and I guess what was it like getting on the boat for the first time? How was the first beer away?
Yeah, well, we have spent a lot of time in the simulator, hundreds and hundreds of hours. And I would say that the key thing we learnt is how to sort of find the problem when the boat's out of balance. It's a balancing act, these boats. You know, you're leaning on 2 points in the water and everything has to be lined up for you to feel locked in. But there definitely is that locked in feeling. And so that's what we learned on the sim, is basically where to look at the screens, at the environment, not so much, but at the screens, and how to troubleshoot those problems. And then to get on the boat, the sensation is fairly different when you're actually flying above the waves and you've got, 80 kilometers of wind on your face and spray. That changes, but where you're looking to find the problems if you're out of balance is the same. So, yeah.
Imagine it's pretty fun, though, getting in that boat, riffing around.
Yeah, well, the first bearaway I did, we popped up and we had some Barcelona sea state, which was not very appreciated on my end, but I poked my head out the side of the cockpit and was looking a long way down to the water. So, yeah, that was definitely something that the simulator doesn't prepare you for.
Let's go. Okay, moving along to our Swiss team, Alingi Red Bull Racing skipper and trimmer Jan Schupbach.
Okay, we'll skip through Jan, and I want to go to H4 now, but these kids are great. This is, I was really impressed, Julia, don't you think?
Yes.
Bright, articulate, no surprise. Couple of comments coming in. Too bad that there is not more, there are not more women. There's only one woman skipper. So that's a little surprising. I guess it's not surprising. It's just, I wish there were more. We all do.
Yeah.
Yes, the racing is covered live. I watched it live while I was preparing the show this morning. And of course, they went on for 3.5 hours of delay. They didn't get started until late this afternoon, Barcelona time. Finally got one light air race in. Then there's the storm front started to move in. It got really stormy. We'll show you more about that in a moment. And got breezy and bumpy, and they got another race. And yes, the Americans and the Italians have traded firsts and seconds, and they look to be head and shoulders above the rest, including, surprisingly, Leonard Takahashi. He didn't have a great day today. Who's France? We got some croutons. That's because we're so popular these days, Julia. I'm getting rid of a few of these people. Yep, our Rhode Island Rover, the future. And it was this guy Gradoni, who is the helm for the Italians. That guy is good. And remember, he sailed on these boats in Jeddah with the senior team, because they used these boats in Jeddah.
Oh, yeah.
At that pre-regatta in Saudi Arabia, and I guess Jimmy was gone, right? So Gradoni, his first name escapes me, who is the Italian helm for the youth team, who was sailing in Jeddah for the senior team in the absence of Jimmy, who was off doing Sail GP or Francesca. I can't remember who was gone.
Yeah.
But you got to think that kid is really good, and he is good. We know from other classes. So Gradoni has been sailing an AC40 for almost 2 years. Alex Hayward, thank you for that. And the Luna test boat, yes. So this is interesting. It was fun to watch, but let's listen to her, this gal.
A big part in Germany,
German
and
skipper.
Yeah, being here and sailing these beautiful yachts and making the first steps into America sailing, and making the first steps to build a big cup team, and hopefully being a big cup team in the future would be great. And yeah, being part of that whole scenario is super great and super cool.
So you reckon then we could see a German team on the start line with an AC75? Maybe you on the helm?
Hopefully, yes. I'm keen to do it.
Bring it on. Awesome. Okay, now to our Italian team, Luna Rossa Prada.
Okay,
Pirelli,
let's listen to Mr.
with
Gradoni
helm
while
Marco
we're here.
Gradoni.
Shall we?
Marco, you're the only one sitting up here that's properly raced in these AC40s with that Jeddah competition in the preliminary regattas. I mean, how much confidence does that give you, knowing that you've raced these boats and raced them very well? I mean, you pushed Emirates Team New Zealand to the final. Just a big nosedive there at the end that probably stopped you claiming that victory. So how much confidence does it give you knowing that you've been here before?
I think it was a really amazing experience to be in Jeddah with the team, with the big team Luna Rossa, and now it's a different team. We're all youth guys, so the past is the past. Now I want to really focus on the present, and I think we have a really great team, really nice sailors. Also, the women team is supporting us a lot. We have a nice coach, so we just have to keep focused. We train a lot. We push a lot ourselves to be here prepared. So we just want to go out sailing and do our best.
And because you've raced these boats, what can we expect in racing? I mean, how close are these things going to be?
I think racing is completely different from training. So everybody of us are going to push more. And in this stage, we have to be prepared. And it's amazing because if we are going to have a lot of breeze, it's going to be really tight, even the start or every mark rounding. So we are prepared about this, and we just want to go out and put our skills on the water.
Okay, so that's Alex. What's his name? Marco Gridoni. I guess Alex Hayworth is saying he's 3 times optimist. I assume you mean world champion or maybe team racing, or single, whatever it was. But he's obviously a hell of a good sailor. And now let's go, Julia, to this clip with H4, Harry Melgus IV. Buddy Melgus, the famously good American sailor, his dad, Buddy's dad, was H1, and then Buddy was actually junior. Buddy Melgus was Harry Melgus Jr., and then there's the son, who's Harry III, and then this is the grandson of the late, great Buddy Melgus here at the press conference this morning.
Rivalry. We'll go to New York Yacht Club American Magic skipper and helm Harry Melgus now. Harry, your grandfather, Buddy Melgus, was a legend in his time in the America's Cup. What do you think he would think about now, seeing you up on stage here, leading New York Yacht Club American Magic into the UniCredit Youth?
I think I hope he'd be very excited to see a young American team up here competing, and especially seeing 3 out of the 4 of us being from the Midwest in America. He won the Cup in 1992 with America Cubed, and it really inspired me and a lot of young sailors from the Midwest in America to keep pushing and be involved in high-level competitions like this. And as a team, with the American Magic team, we've received tons of support, and we're ready to go.
And does this boat, how does it feel? I mean, does it come natural? How's the learning experience been?
This boat's been just incredible. It's the coolest sailing I've ever done, and I think it's a really exciting pathway going forward to use sailors and pretty much every sailor.
Thanks, Harry. Okay, next up from the Netherlands, we've got Yayo.
Enough of that. Here's the guy that somebody thinks looks like a Stingray. Thinks this guy looks like a porn star.
World stage, plenty before. A lot of big competitions.
You think?
Out there for you.
Why do you say that, Stingray? That deserves Julia.
Yeah, that's not very.
That's not. Well, he's okay. He's got a 19. He looks like KR. 1980s. He's a handsome guy.
Very handsome guy.
Okay, enough of that. We'll check out who he is and see if he's a porn star for you, Stingray. Just for you. Julia's not amused. Okay, so here are our 2 Fuzzy, Julia.
Yep.
Cole Tapper, who's the current Gov Cup champion. He won this year.
Yep.
And he is from Australia. He is a hell of a nice kid and a great sailor. And the other one, of course, is another Fuzzy. They've both been on the show multiple times, and of course, part of Andy Rose's programs down there on Monday night and so on, the interviews. And the other is Leo Takahashi, who's 3-time runner-up at the Gov Cup. I don't think he ever won it. But he, of course, from NZL, he was campaigning 49ers for Japan. His dad, Rob Fry, who's often on here watching, is a Kiwi. His mom is Japanese. And yeah, the multilingualism, if that's a word, Gordon Smith, is really amazing. And that's part of our sport, our beloved sport, and how bright these kids are. And worldly, which is, as you know, Julie, is one of my favorite words.
Yes.
Worldly. right?
Yes.
Okay, now there was a little bit of a preview of this youth thing. This is our feature today, so I'm going to go into it a bit more, but this was a feature from stuff.co.nz that aired in New Zealand a couple days ago.
We are just 24 hours from the youth competition kicking off here in Barcelona, which means we're about to get a glimpse at the future of the America's Cup.
I definitely didn't always dream of it because I didn't even know it was a possibility. I think as a female, you don't even realise that you can be part of something like this. So
you had any real pitch yourself moments?
Yeah, all the time, every day.
The Kiwis have been battling Barcelona's changeable weather conditions to try and get as much time training out on the water here in Spain as possible before racing starts. And coupled with the hours spent working on the simulator, the team of 5 back their chances.
We want to win, that's what we're here for, so yeah, it's the same for everyone.
But it won't be easy.
There's a couple of sailors in those teams that have done also some sailing in the big boat, and they're also part of the senior team as well. So if you look at it like that, yeah, they could call them rock stars. And yeah, I know that the Italians are quite strong. They've done a lot of sailing on the AC40, and even from just practice, they were, look like they're going to be a strong team to be.
The youth competition takes place from the 18th to the 27th of September, New Zealand time.
Okay, Julia, I think that's enough prep lead in for what happened today. Today was day one. As I said, there was I think a 3+ hour delay while they're waiting for some wind to come through, and the boats were spread all over the place. And finally, the Italians, who led virtually the whole way around the track, Mr. Marco Gradoni, won by, as you can see here, 600 meters over the Americans, more than a kilometer over Leo Takahashi and the Kiwis, 1,300 meters ahead of the Brits and the Swiss, who were having troubles. So, and only 5 of the 6 teams. There's 2 groups of 6 teams. There's the 6 so-called invited teams, which are the non-America's Cup countries. And then there are the 6 teams from the America's Cup countries, which is what this group, I don't know if this is A or B, but it's one or the other. And that's what we saw racing today. Tomorrow morning, early. In fact, I think they're starting at 9 or 9:30 local tomorrow is what I was hearing before we went to air. They're going to start, and I don't know if they're going to cover that on TV or not, because they have the regular America's Cup, the LVC semifinal starting tomorrow at their regular time, 1400 local in Barcelona. We will be live for that at 0500, but I'll be damned if I'm going to get up at 1 to get ready for a 2 o'clock watch party. I'm too old.
Yes.
You young people can do that. Yeah. If Jack, Captain Jack, John Schaefer wants to do that, great. So they won today, the first race, and it was not so interesting in the light. But then that's the problem with light stuff. The USA was second, and then after this race, I get this photo from our Fozy, Heidi Purcell. You heard us talking. She's been on the watch parties. And Heidi sent this photo and said, here come the storms. Those poor kids are still out there, and it's starting to get really breezy. She at her apartment or at some place, maybe having some tapas and a cocktail or a beer. And she said, weather coming in, and the poor kids are still out, wind delay, but blasting now. And this was, I think, after 1800 their time local, 6 p.m. local. In any event, long story short, they did get a race in. I've seen the video. Thanks, Stingray, for sending the link to the video, but there's no point putting it in here. As it was really lumpy, it was really breezy, and suffice to say that the Americans won that race, and the Italians were second. So H4 and Co., they come through and win and trade firsts and seconds with Marco Gradoni's team from LRPP and lead the scoreboard there at 17 points each on the top of the scoreboard. The Brits third, ETNZ fourth, tied for third and fourth on 8 points. And then Alinghi Red Bull Racing at a fifth and a DNS. And then the French team, you would thought would be a little bit better, were disqualified in the first and did not start in the breezier, bumpier second. I don't know. I would hope Stingray might know, or somebody who. And Gordon Smith disagrees. He says, I beg to differ. I thought both races were well worth watching and taking part in. Well, I'm sure they were worth taking part in, Gordon, but you and our ideas of what is compelling viewing are sometimes different. We've seen seen on the watch parties.
And John Emmett follows the most fun to watch, trying to get around with oversized jibs.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll tell you what, having Gordon and Graham and John Emmett
Yeah.
and Ed Worley and this guy, I don't know this guy, Lindemann, who came on. Phil Lindemann is his name. He popped up on the Zoom the other day. And he's not a sailor, or he's done a little bit of sailing,
Yeah.
precious little yacht racing.
But he's a fan.
But he's a big fan. Yeah. Wasn't he nice?
He was.
He was great. Vive la différence. Exactly, Gordon. Couldn't agree more. So that's the second race today. It was windy and rough, and Niam and our LRPP swapped positions. They're tied at the top of the leaderboard. I think the other group of 6 race tomorrow. They swap back and forth, do this until there are a winner out of each group, and then those 2 teams do a match race at the end to determine the Youth America's Cup, the UniCredit Youth America's Cup champion 2024. Brad Reed said, the esteemed executive director of Sail Newport, longtime friend, good hockey player and hockey coach there in Newport, Rhode Island, longtime friend, saying it was actually fun to watch. So he agrees with you, Gordon.
And there's no reason not to watch it.
Well, exactly. And I did watch out of one eye, but, I'm busy preparing a show, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm just saying that for other people who are interested, they can watch it.
Well, for sure. Exactly. And I don't know if ESPN Plus in this country or YouTube, the so-called unilaterals that are covering it around the world, taking the host feed from the America's Cup Television, ACTV unit in Barcelona. I don't know if they're covering all of this stuff or not. They did cover the youth today, but then that was the only thing going on, starting at 1400 local. Tomorrow, the youth are starting earlier, or so one hears, because they got the seniors that are playing their sport at 1400 local. We'll cover that for sure. On balance, I would rate USA above ITA at the moment in the youth AC, John Emmett says, but ITA above USA in the senior circuit. Okay. Brad Reed saying the boats in Breeze were scary looking, and my heart was racing watching the big nosedives. That's a really good point, because they were they looked like they were on bucking Broncos. I mean, there was a lot of pitch and a lot of it was a scary, and of course it'd gotten really rough. Now that's the conditions. The sea state tomorrow. We're supposed to have meter plus seas tomorrow for the racing in the afternoon, and maybe a bit more breeze as well. Maybe not as much as the kids had today. But that's our feature on the Youth America's Cup.
And let's not break anything.
Stingray thinks I need to start getting up at 1 a.m. to be ready to go live at 2 a.m. Well, Stingray, not much. And another comment that Stingray made, or I think it was Stingray that he made, Julia, is, and it's a good point, is that this is coming for the first time. This host TV feed is 4K. We talked about this on the other morning on one of the watch parties. Mm-hmm. It is 4K. I don't know, John Emmett, did you notice if it was 30 frames or 60 frames a second? But it's a beautiful feed, and if you've got a 4K TV or a 4K monitor like we do here in the studio, this bigger monitor is 4K. This is just an old-fashioned 1080p, but I am taking a 4K signal off the cable. I'm not feeding 4K. But also John Emmett noting that it's also HDR, which is, we have HDR cameras here in the studio that high definition, really, really good. Yes. And it helps if you got a bright background, which of course you do when you're covering sailing. Okay, enough of this. We're an hour and 18 minutes into this show. Let's get going here and get to conclusion, because Hamish Ross sent me a screed, a manuscript about tomorrow the 18th. And of course, for those of you down under, Jody and co, it is the 18th, and maybe we'll use that as a looking back from Friday, because tomorrow is a day in which 3 America's Cup matches were determined, 3 finals.
Really?
But on the 17th of September, one of the most famous documents in the world came to completion, fruition, and here's your only clue, Julia.
Yes.
That is?
The Constitution.
The United States Constitution. And it was signed, finally, after the Constitution Convention in Philadelphia. It was signed on this day in 1787. And there is a sailing connection to even this, believe it or not.
Yes.
And it is as follows, that this famous painting of, and you can see Benjamin Franklin there in the foreground, and that's Washington, George Washington, who presided over this group. And by the way, Brad Reed, the Rhode Island delegation left in disgust. They didn't like what was going on. They ultimately signed the Constitution, signed onto it as one of the original 13s later on, but they were not amused and left. I learned that today. I didn't know that. This painting, the scene at the signing of the Constitution of the United States, is an oil on canvas by somebody, Howard Chandler Christie, depicting this Constitutional Convention and the signing of the Constitution at Independence Hall in Philadelphia on 17 September 1787. Along with Washington crossing the Delaware, that famous painting by Emanuel Leutze, good German name, and the painting, it's one of the most famous depictions of the early days of the U.S. Christie created the painting in April 1940, so just before, during the start of World War II. It is so large, it's 20 by 30 feet, 6 by 9 meters, that he painted it in a sail loft. Put your finger out. I like that, Julie. Give us that. That was good.
I knew that.
Isn't that a good point?
Yes.
It was painted in a sail loft. Who knows where? For extra credit, somebody figure out where it was painted. It currently is displayed, I've seen it, along the east stairway in the House of Representatives wing in the Capitol building in the U.S.
I've always liked that painting.
Huh?
I've always liked that.
Isn't it a fabulous painting? Okay, that's your historical note for today. This day in history, the U.S. Constitution is signed in Philadelphia in, what was it, 1787. The U.S. Constitution was named Old Ironsides. I think that's a different Constitution, Rick Banner. I think that was a ship, a yacht. That would be a sailing connection, too, although it was a steamer, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Was it one of these paddle wheelers? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? I don't either. Who would know? That gets us to the last leg. And we are going to talk about cyclors, pedlars, because there's been a lot of questions about this. Are the American Magic cyclors at a disadvantage by some percentage, 10%, because they're recumbent? Are the Brits better off? They seem to be the lead team. And who better than to explain cycling and cyclors on the America's Cup boat than Ineos Britannia? Hence this video after this photo. First, this photo, which Richard Gladwell calls the crotch cam or the crotch shot.
Yeah.
The Constitution is still in Boston Harbor, and it's a sailing vessel. And I remember now they turn it on the 4th of July every year so that it 1 year, it gets a half year exposed, full year of exposure to the sun on one side. Then they turn it and it gets a full year of exposure on the other. In Boston Harbor. USS Constitution was part of the first frigates of the new U.S. Navy. So what a smart group we have.
Yes, that's good to know.
Okay. These guys have the worst job in these boats, and there's a lot of speculation that the Americans are underpowered. In fact, they've apparently said so in interviews, and we have people in Barcelona who've been told at their hospitality that, we're at a bit of a disadvantage, maybe 10%. Who knows? Here's the video of Ineos Britannia about all this.
When you look at how to power this version of the America's Cup boat, everything below the boat in the water is powered by batteries. Everything above the water, which is fundamentally the sails, is powered by the cyclors. And what the cyclors will do is they're going to cycle on the boat, and we're going to move a hydraulic pump with our cranks. Now, the better we move that pump, the more dynamic we can be with our sail trim, the faster the boat's going to be. So the biggest difference between now and Auckland is in Auckland we were cycling with our arms, we were grinding. We're now cycling with our legs. That's about 20% more powerful. We're very lucky that we've got 4 non-traditional sailors in our cyclor squad, and we saw that as a necessity because they're, quite frankly, the 4 guys we've hired are probably some of the fittest guys in the country.
British rowing have sat at the pinnacle of world rowing for the last 30 years, and that system keeps producing gold medals Olympiad after Olympiad. British rowing has like given all of us here that like aerobic base, which they're amazing at producing because they have the fittest athletes in the world. Like the scores, like the men put out and the women there put out, are like a notch above the rest of the world. Freddie Carr brings knowledge, experience, but he also brings a lot of power. And the knowledge and experience he's got of the Cup has been like priceless to us coming into the team.
They don't know how to sail, so they've been on a pretty intensive course on how to sail. Not only sail, but sail at over 50 knots. But fundamentally, they are there to lay down some mega power, and they do that, and they've done a really good job. You know, I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of them all.
There's no out-and-out cyclists here, but being part of INEOS, we have been able to lean on the INEOS Grenadiers quite a lot. We've been on training camps with them. We have some access to physiologists, like to their wider team. So for us, like, it's been pretty easy in that sense.
Yeah, the lads are used to rowing on lakes that are as flat as a mirror, and that's certainly not what you get out here in Barcelona. I think their biggest adaptation is just the exposure to the elements. Out on the sea all day is hard work.
I am highly motivated to bring the Cup home because I know that that's what the British sailing nation wants, and to have that back in the UK for the first time ever would be absolutely amazing.
It's going to be fun. It is going to be a challenge, but there's no doubt that these boats are going to be closer in speed than we've seen previously. Therefore, it's going to come down to the small things, the small details like cycle fitness. So yeah, we're up for the challenge they're going to throw at us for sure.
Are the Brits leading because they have the best cyclers? Is it because the INEOS cycling, the Grenadiers, whatever the cycling team is, which Mr. Sir Jim Ratcliffe owns?
Right.
Maybe it's the crossover from that's even more important than the crossover from Formula One.
Probably.
Or from who knows where else. It's a very interesting question. And I'll tell you, you take Freddie Carr, you give him a television job after this because the guy is bright, articulate, attractive, and does a fabulous job. And he's been hosting a lot. They also have this thing called, what's it called? Inside Track, I think they call it, which is their kind of post-race podcast almost every day, which he semi-hosts or hosts. And he's really good. I got a lot of time. Yeah, I got a lot of time. And Training to Win, which is Emmett, John is saying it sure helps. Blake Middleton, huge props to the Cyclops. Now let's please send them back to their bikes. There is zero relationship to anything like cyclers in 99.9% of sailing. Don Lunabo saying, yeah, pedal power will win the Cup. Inside Tack. Thank you, Stingray. Not Inside Track. Inside Tack is the name of their podcast. Okay. Well, bravo Zulu to INEOS, for they continue to produce great videos, that being one of them, I think.
Yep.
And I am, the other guy ought to have a late night radio show. That the cycler who's got a voice, maybe he could replace the guy who died last week, James Earl Jones.
Oh,
what a voice he's got. He could take over as Darth Vader or as Mustafa. What was the Lion King's?
Yeah.
Well, that was the uncle who I think was the bad one. In any event, bravo Zulu to INEOS for that. And that pretty well wraps it up. We'll get to the D block and then call it a day. But Julia?
Sir.
Get ready. We got one on here. Well, they're all pretty clean. This came from Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, this first one, who is happily married and has been so for a long time. But he sent this. He said, do you remember the most stupid thing you've ever said? I do. Okay. Corny, but funny. It made me laugh, cheered me up when I saw that after people were getting on me about, why didn't you? Why didn't you? We looked for you this morning, and excuse me, I can't get up at 4 o'clock every morning and do this stuff. That cheered me up, Andrew. If nothing else, you cheered me up. We're looking forward to having you here next week for Stag Cruise.
Absolutely.
When he's giving the keynote address, first ever keynote at the Stag Cruise. Sailing is like sex. When it's great, it's great. Julia, you can read the last sentence.
And when it's bad, still great.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you might. And guess who sent that? Who else but Ted Ryman?
Oh, yes.
Who else would send that but Ted Ryman? He sends.
Yeah.
Join the YouTube banter. Training to Win is saying CV. Yeah, okay. And then finally, one more. It's hard to believe, and this is truly a whiskey tango foxtrot. We started with a Louis Vuitton cup. We end with a Louis Vuitton cup. This is out of stock. I just checked online before we went to air. The Louis Vuitton multi-flag windbreaker, which, by the way, Julia, is reversible.
And I immediately say, wow, that's good looking.
And then I said to Julia, well, at $3,500 plus, $3,550, it can be yours when it's back in stock. $3,550 US.
Oh. I think I'll have to live without it.
Clark Chapin says it hurts my eyes. I can't wait to see that show up on some rapper, somebody who has nothing to do, some entertainer who has nothing to do with sailing, but who always wears LV stuff. Maybe Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah.
Will show up at an NFL game wearing something like that. Roughly $10 per flag. Chris actually says I can't unsee that, nor can I, Chris. $35.50. John Emmett says I don't get it. No, I don't get it either, Julia. That what I do get is how wonderful our Fozy are. Thank you all. Blake Middleton's going to pass on the $35.50. That gets us to the finish line. Julia, your witness.
Yes, this is a great time to like, follow, and share. And especially share, because then you can encourage other people to follow. And we like that.
Graham Sweeney's wondering if the Commodore Clatch, the Commodore's commode, somebody called them. That was not polite.
No.
A gaggle of Commodores, a fleet. I like a fleet of Commodores. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay, Heidi Purcell, who's in Barcelona. Thank you, Heidi, for sending us your photo of the weather. We'll see what it's like tomorrow. It's supposed to be windy. Or windier anyway than it was the other day. And it's supposed to be rainy and a bit squally tomorrow. We shall see. Comments, by the way, are welcome, even in replay. We leave them on here, and we certainly do appreciate those of you who give us support, whether via Patreon. I had somebody text us during the show and say, hey, is there a way to contribute without using Patreon? Some people don't like to give their credit card to an online, although reputable, Patreon is, patreon.com/join/sailing illustrated. Yeah, and I texted that person our address, the Beach Street Yacht Club address here.
Yeah, okay.
And
Good.
I won't repeat it here on the air because we don't want the criminals coming around and ripping us off here in Studio B.
Of all our gold.
We've already had one break-in here 6-7 years ago. We don't need another. Yeah. Thanks to all. Thanks to you, Gordon Smith. A Lionel of Commodores. A Lionel, Andrew McIrvin is saying. A Lionel of Commodores. Rick Banro says that jacket's not worth a dime over $2,900 and change. Okay. Ken Saban, thanks to you, Don Lunabos, and all the rest of you. Thanks very much. Those of you who also let us use or otherwise beg, borrow, or steal your images, your videos, and your audio for this show. We appreciate it very much indeed, and we hope to see you back for our watch party tomorrow morning.
And you can think of us at 4 o'clock when we get up.
400. Well, a lot of people are getting up early. I mean, Ed Worley down in SoCal is up. In fact, Ed Worley, he said the other day, he stays up all night working on his model yachts. He's recently retired. That's we're working on his model yachts, and then he comes on by Zoom, and he's bloody articulate and with it. Okay, Rhode Island Rover, everybody, John Emmett, thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow at the watch party. We'll go live at 0500. And we'll see if they can stay alive yet again. Do you think so, Julia?
Yes.
We shall see tomorrow because watch party at 0500, just the show note one last time. Thursday, maybe a watch party at 0500. We don't know. First to win 5. Friday watch party, maybe. Friday regular show, maybe. Because we'll do a Tuesday regular show next week for sure. But if we do a watch party Friday morning, we will not do our regular show Friday afternoon. It's just too much. Thanks, Mark Holland. You're doing a great job, Mark, as our statistician on the watch parties. And hope to see you all tomorrow morning. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.